Welcome to the Curator Salon podcast. My name is Geeta Joshi, and today my guest is Ryan Hughes from the Coventry Biennial. I'm really excited to talk to Ryan because the Coventry Biennial sees its second event happening in autumn of 2019. Ryan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So as I said, 2017 saw the first Coventry Biennial, and I wanted us to talk about its evolution. And when you started 2 years ago, which cities or festivals were you looking at or modelling at that time?
Liverpool had been something I'd paid very close attention to for, I guess, the decade that they'd been running biennials. And seeing Liverpool evolve has been really eye-opening. So I guess to my mind, like the big three British biennials or triennials, Folkestone's really evolved, quite exciting. Glasgow International, Glasgow's obviously got an amazing, very well-established art scene. Seeing how that city comes alive every 2 years for a particular moment was really exciting. Also, another seaside one like Folkestone, I think Whitstable Biennial. Different scale, a bit of a different focus, but actually seeing how all of those biennials really embed themselves in place and in community was, I think, really important for thinking about how we might work in Coventry. The West Midlands is obviously a very big region. We take up quite a lot of like the middle of the map. And there's a really great art scene here, but there wasn't like a coherent moment that we see in things like Glasgow International. There's really great festivals like Fierce Festival with a performance focus, Supersonic with like an experimental music and sound focus. But actually for something that's perhaps tries to serve a much sort of broader contemporary art sort of focus, we weren't necessarily seeing that event in the region. And so Coventry seemed particularly poised for it in relation to those other festivals in the region, but also in relation to some sort of more strategic things happening in the city. I'm sure we're going to talk about UK City of Culture. That was sort of ramping up the bid was ramping up in 2017 as we started. The city had a new cultural policy that was released in 2017. And so, there was this very fertile ground for us to do something, really.
So after the 2017 biennial, how long after it ended was it that you started working on the 2019 event? Because I'm quite interested in the lead times for these things.
Yeah, sure. So the 2019 planning, the first conversation with an artist took place during the 2017 biennial. We invited a few artists up to sort of see what we were doing. Really, we started meeting with artists sort of a bit more seriously from, I guess it must have been about the February 2018. So it was quite an immediate start after we finished the first biennial. Alongside that, we were really looking into like the data that we'd gathered during the first biennial. We were using that to start to fundraise. And so that the fundraising and the partnership building was really happening at the same time as conversations with artists, looking at how one set of conversations might inform the other. We then started to really announce tentative bits of information in, I think it was the September of 2018. So it was at that point we announced the dates for the next biennial, which is now about to start. And it was at that point we announced sort of an overarching curatorial theme, which is the twin, looking at Coventry's twin cities and duality. I think that theme, the theme and the dates, I think were probably in place. It must have been early summer 2018. And all of that work, the conversations with artists, thinking about themes for the programme, is really rooted in the curatorial practices of myself and the other directors of Coventry Biennial. So it's quite a sort of, at the time it feels like quite a slow process, but I guess actually to be able to turn it around in 2 years, it is quite speedy. And so, really after the September 2018, where we announced the dates, we began to really ramp up. Funding decisions started coming back, probably must have been around the December 2018. So we announced all of the details before we were fully secure. It just felt actually important that we let the world know that we were coming back. Lots of biennials do a first biennial and then perhaps we don't see a second. And we thought it was really important to make it clear that that wasn't the case for us. We were definitely coming back 2019. And so as soon as the first few funding decisions came back, December, January, we started really securing venues and really like signing off what artists were doing, where they were doing it, how that might interact with another artist doing a thing in the next room or down the road. And again, it's quite a slow, laborious research process. And that really sort of, it's still happening now. We open in a few days. As artists are coming to the city, we're all thinking we're perhaps building one thing together. But as an artist-led biennial, we think it's actually really important that we work with artists in very organic ways that feel right for their practices. So actually, if something influences an artist between the train station and the venue, where we can, we work with them with that. And so, it's really piecing together now. We're installing 14 shows across the city.
How have you engaged more spaces, as this biennial is larger than the last one?
It is, it's quite a lot bigger in terms of numbers of venues. The Row is we're calling it the Row. Previously, it was an NHS rehab facility. So we're working with a local arts charity, Coventry Art Space, and then Axis Web, who are an arts charity working on a more national level. So together we've secured the building, and we're working with them to turn it into a new art centre for the city. So this will become our central hub. This is one of our main exhibitions. And we think it's actually really exciting to be working in these slightly unconventional, disused buildings that occupy huge areas of land in city centres. These buildings are part of people's everyday lives, but actually most people would have never been allowed into these buildings. So actually by introducing our exhibitions into these spaces, it feels really exciting to be opening up the city in that way. And so alongside the Row, we're working with a wide range of sort of arts, culture and heritage organisations in the city. And really that's been facilitated from people seeing the first biennial and building up that sort of trust that we're going to be quite sensitive to the spaces that we're working in. Artists will be responding to those spaces quite meaningfully. And a lot of the organisations are really seeing how that's a mutually beneficial relationship. So we're working several medieval buildings. The medieval weaver's house, which is a tiny, the clue's in the name, it's a medieval weaver's house. So quite a small cultural heritage venue outside the city centre. So looking at how our exhibitions can actually go to communities, embed themselves in neighbourhoods. We're working in a part of a council building. It's a really beautiful muniment room. So it's historically where archives and documents would have been kept. Hasn't been open to the public for decades. It's just been effectively a storage room. And so we're working with the council there to bring an exhibition into that space. So again, opening up these really interesting spaces that the public don't have access to, really engaging with the history of those sites through artistic practice. Another really great space we're working at, the Herbert Art Gallery and Museum. It's the city's sort of main art gallery and museum. We're working straight through their building, a really great partnership with them. They've got this really sort of beautiful, it's like a medieval basement. It was original when it was built and when people lived on the street. It was a merchant's storage basement. And now, following the Blitz and the city's rebuilding, the Herbert sits a story and a half above it. So this space is generally only open to the public for Heritage Open Day weekends. It's like 2 days a year or 4 days a year. And so we've commissioned Grace Williams, an artist who's shown with the Herbert before, but is now based in London. We've commissioned her to make a new work just for that space. So again, really activating that space and the context of this medieval site. But again, crucially, just opening up this quite unusual architectural space to the citizens of Coventry and to visitors.
So how many artists have you got taking part?
So we've had a significant growth in terms of artists from the first biennial. In 2017, we had 73 artists. And for this second biennial, we've got a little over 100, including lots of artist duos, artist groups, different configurations of collaborative situations. And that's designed really to reflect this idea of the twin and international relationships that we're exploring through the biennial. Lots of the artists are sort of names that you're perhaps used to seeing on lists of artists at biennials. Lawrence Abu Hamdam, nominated for this year's Turner Prize. We saw his work in the Venice Biennale this year, alongside artists like Paul Chan, Badlands Unlimited from New York. Paul won the Hugo Boss Art Prize in 2014. So we've got these very high-profile practitioners, Jake and Dinos Chapman, showing some public artworks in the city. But as the UK Social Biennial, it feels really important that as well as these big international heavyweight art world artists, actually we're working with early career artists from around the world and from the region here. It's really important that we're working with artists at all stages of their careers, from Coventry, from nearby Warwickshire, from nearby Birmingham, and that actually we're creating these mutually beneficial platforms for some of those bigger names and some of the more emerging names. So, and we're looking at a lot at how peer-to-peer relationships might develop between artists. So an example of that, Anna Columbine, artist based up in Manchester, and Adele Mary Reid, who's a photographer here in Coventry. We facilitated those two artists collaborating with each other for the first time, that the two hadn't met prior to our conversations. But there was something in the way that they were both working and the things that they were interested in that through our conversations with both of them, it felt right to introduce them and to see how that might develop. And so there's several moments of these kinds of new collaborations emerging through the biennial that we're seeing. Another one is Barty Palmer and Marion Piper. The Marion we were showing in the first biennial, 2017. Barty joined our advisory board just after that. And we knew that we'd be showing Barty in this year's biennial as well. Actually, those two met at the first biennial. They did mutual studio visits and then decided to start making work together. And so we'll be the first place that shows the outcomes of that new collaboration. So yeah, we're looking at lots of ways where we can allow artists the sort of the flexibility to try out those new things, whether that's working with new people, whether that's perhaps making the sort of work that they don't usually make. And again, as I said earlier, that's very much rooted in desire for us to support artistic practice, wherever that's taking artists, really.
And presumably that growth in the number of participants is actually reflected in your budget and ambitions for the biennial.
It is, yeah. We've the first biennial was it was slightly scrappy. It was very ambitious. A few people locally have described us as punching above our weights for that year, and so yeah, our budgets have grown sort of substantially, which means we can work with artists in much more meaningful ways. We've certainly commissioned a lot more new works rather than showing perhaps existing works that artists have been storing. So that feels really exciting. And also we're still very embryonic. We're definitely building towards our 2021 biennial, where if all goes to plan, I'm sure there's some wood around to touch, our budgets and our reach will be growing again. So 2021, Coventry is going to be UK City of Culture. We're working very closely. We've got a great partnership with their team. And so we're sure in that year we're going to see, huge numbers of artists, hopefully huge numbers of visitors. Coventry's going to be really busy this year. It's going to be vibrant and energetic. But in 2021, as we saw in Hull, when Hull was City of Culture 2017, that title can really can make a city feel very different. So we're looking forward to sort of making the city feel different by showing what it does really well. We don't feel like we necessarily have to change the city for it to feel different.
So let's talk about Coventry as a city with its own rich history and obviously this theme of the twin. How has that informed the art being shown?
So this idea of the twin is really rooted in Coventry's history as the first modern twin city. Well, obviously one half of the first modern twin cities. And that was a citizen-led initiative birthed in the midst of the Second World War. So following the Blitz, where Coventry was very heavily destroyed, a group of citizens gathered together and decided to reach out to, at the time it was Stalingrad, it's now known as Volgograd in Russia, with this thought that the two cities would heal together. And from that moment, Coventry's been a very internationally focused city. It's now got 26 twin cities, which are sort of spread very widely around the world. Generally, the relationships between Coventry and its twins are rooted in some sort of conflict. And so there's this continuing idea of healing together. So we see twin cities in Sarajevo, Dresden in Germany. So a lot of sort of Central and Eastern European cities, as well as increasingly twin cities in further flung areas of the world. So Kingston, Jamaica, Jinan in China. And these twin cities, the relationships with Coventry tend to be very much citizen-led. And that's rooted in the different communities that live in Coventry and the relationships they have that are personal or professional around the world. Certainly Coventry feels international. You very, very frequently hear huge range of languages spoken in the city streets. Coventry, it's a very diverse, energetic city. And that has really informed that whole programme around the twin. So really this thing about Coventry as an international space has started the thinking for the twin, which has then branched out into a wider exploration of duality, and particularly duality within artistic practice. And so as a part of this focus on the international space, as well as how that unfolds in Coventry, we've got artists from all over the world showing, including many of those twin cities. So we've got Andrew Jackson, for example, whose family are from Kingston. He's been taking photos in Kingston that we'll be showing back here in Coventry. We've got artists coming over from Warsaw in Poland, one of our twin cities. Several artists coming over from Dresden, which I mentioned earlier. Dresden and Coventry share a really, really rich and very culturally focused relationship. So it's exciting to be working with artists from Dresden. And this sort of balance within our programme is roughly a quarter of the artists from international cities, not all of them twin cities, and then the rest of the artists are very much UK based, and a big proportion of them are West Midlands based. Great.
So as an international biennial, does it mean that taking part in Coventry can lead to an artist showing in more exotic places?
We certainly hope so. So we saw a lot of increased opportunities for artists following the first biennial. Artists that were showing with us in Coventry 2017 were commissioned to make new work for touring shows of Arts Council Collection and various other well-respected bodies. So we certainly imagine that will occur again. We're working with a lot of organisations to see how we can facilitate that. And certainly there's one artwork that we're particularly thinking will be building up tension during the biennial. And then as we come to an end at the end of November, that artwork will spring out and arrive at Coventry's 26 International Twin Cities, where we'll be encouraging people to install it in public spaces in each of those cities. So certainly we're working on that increased opportunity for artists. And we imagine several of the artists will be returning to Coventry to show with us in 2021.
Well, it sounds so exciting. I am going to be heading to Coventry, unfortunately not for the opening, but one of the sort of first few weeks in October, I expect. The Coventry Biennial runs from the 4th of October to the 24th of November, and the full event schedule can be found on the website, which I will add a link to in the show notes. Ryan, thank you so much for your time today. It's been really interesting talking about the Biennial, and I can't wait to visit the city and probably meet you there as well.
That's great. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed chatting. I'll see you in October.
See you in October.
The Curator's Salon hopes you enjoyed this production.